Hi, thanks for being with me today. I hope you're having a blessed day and can have peace in your lives despite all the turmoil that's going on in the world. You know, it's just a never-ending descent into a maelstrom of bad behavior and negativity. And we have our leaders proposing to spend massive amounts of money while our Federal Reserve is debasing the currency at the rate of tens of billions of dollars a month, buying government bonds from the government with paper money and inflating the money supply, debasing the purchasing power. And of course, we're seeing rising prices due to all that money being pumped into the economy. And what a mess, friends, what a mess. So if we're going to get real about things, anybody who's halfway rational knows you can't live on borrowed money. You can't keep borrowing money month after month without end, thinking that's going to end well, because if you don't have any way to pay the money back other than taking money from people who saved money, that's not a net win for the economy. To say that we're going to tax people who've invested and made money, to pay benefits out to people who aren't working, or give people free things that we can't afford, is just frankly irrational, which is why I came up with the name Get Real Alliance for my organization, because we need to get real about issues and realize that it's crazy to set up an economy where government wastes so much money and is so ineffective. Instead of having private ventures take care of needs, private charities take care of needs for a fraction of the cost, we have this incredible expansion of government. You know, like the tragedy we have with pre-K. There's a large group out there that says, yes, we need early childhood education. But the truth is, the place to have early childhood education is not in a public school with high costs and low outcomes, but in skilled, accredited child care centers that are privately owned and operated, that do a great job with the kids, not just for a few hours a day, which is insufficient to provide the child care needed for a child from the time the parent goes to work early in the morning to getting home in the evening. The child needs to be in an environment where they're nurtured and enriched and educated, not for 3 or 4 hours a day or a half day, but for a 10 or 12 hour period where that whole period is filled with enriching and great activities. So I'm a huge believer in early childhood education, but not as pre-K, but from starting at birth through the school years. The critical period is the first couple of years of life, which is ignored by the elite educational establishment because it's labor intensive and doesn't lend itself to the expert counsel that siphons off so much of the money in the higher cost upper grades. But friends, the first few years of life are critical. I've been involved with a charity for almost 30 years called Educational First Steps, educationalfirststeps.org, that is transforming poverty daycare centers into educational institutions, going from custodial care of children to education. Can be done for a fraction of the money that people propose to spend on government programs, and it's proven to have a real impact on children's educational outcomes. So when you think about doing things, government is not the answer. This private charity could be expanded nationwide for a tiny fraction of the cost that goes in to these government programs of indoctrinating the kids and putting who knows what kind of moral values into kids from a very early stage. So check out Educational First Steps. Go online, learn about them, give to them. They are the answer to education, to start out in those first couple of years and get that kid going with a good vocabulary, reading to them, doing manipulative toys in private daycare centers, not government-run institutions, because government is just inefficient and bureaucratic. The costs escalate dramatically as you involve government in it because there is no quality control and there's no commitment to the donors to provide key value. So we need more private charity. We need more organizations like Educational First Steps to make a real difference in the world. And friends, we can do it with your help. You can't sit back on your heels and say the world's going to hell. I can't do anything about it. You can do something about it. You can reach out and help an organization like Educational First Steps. You can sign up for the Get Real Alliance newsletter and become a monthly donor. Help us spread the word. If Get Real Alliance grows, we're going to be big supporters of Educational First Steps and promoting them and encouraging them and taking this process now worldwide. So I can use your help, friends. You know, I started Get Real Alliance to get real about issues, and if you get real about issues, you realize the way to start out is to build a good foundation, and that's those first couple of years of life when that young brain is just forming like crazy, all kinds of things going on, and all the potential is there. But if you stunt that brain in the first couple of years of life by plopping the kid down in front of a TV and not engaging them in brain engaging activity, then that potential gets dissipated and can't be regained. So help me join together to make a real difference in the world. Not with more government programs, not with this Build Back Better BS that has no chance of doing anything positive except running this country further in the hole in debt and expanded government, which is a huge burden that will cripple growth, cripple opportunity, and lead to a very sharply diminished future for our country. So join with me to fight for rational solutions. And the rational solution is not more government, but less government and more private charity, more private action, both nonprofit and for-profit businesses. You know, Educational First Steps is a nonprofit that provides consulting and educational services to daycare centers that are being run by as businesses, mostly by minority women, and oftentimes represent some of the only legitimate economic activity in some of these poor neighborhoods. So join with us and help us. The solution isn't government pre-K, taking some of the most profitable daycare customers away from daycare centers. Daycare centers lose money on the infants, but they keep them to have future stock of customers on up to when they graduate into the school system full time. But friends, we need your help in a powerful way. And I'm very concerned about the evil tendency of people to promote mandatory government action as opposed to voluntary, Christ-based action in the community. So we're in a dark time, friends, with big government benefiting big business and big public institutions and the public teachers unions, which keep teachers on the payroll who may not be good teachers but are almost impossible to fire due to collective bargaining. So join with me to make a difference in the world by signing up for our newsletter and giving us a monthly donation so that we can do things like promoting educational first steps and remineralize the earth and promoting our positive solution to climate that can end world hunger, which, frankly, friends, is such a much bigger issue than worrying about rising carbon dioxide levels. But my program solves the rising carbon dioxide levels while we still use oil and gas. And my book is going to be out soon, so sign up for the newsletter so you get a chance to be notified when the book is out and you can read a really positive, disruptive book to change the way America and the world works for the better. So when you think about how life goes, the truth is evil is dominant in the world, but good people are doing good things and making a difference. But we have to fight evil, all of us, every day. We have to pray to be delivered from it and pray to be given the strength to fight it through our actions, through our charity, through the way we conduct ourselves, through the way we live. So living unsustainably, living in a way where you're loaded with debt and going to depend on the government and charity to carry you through your final years is not being sustainable, is not being responsible. And you need to be very concerned that our social structure has been manipulated by greed and envy and self-interest to really put so many people in a situation where they don't have a good future ahead of them. And I am concerned about so many things, friends. Want the Get Real Alliance to take on a lot of other issues besides the climate issue. We're working on a disruptive book about human health and how our current alliance of big government, big pharma, big medicine leads to unhealthy outcomes at high expense. There are estimates that if we had really pursued many of the low-cost therapeutics that have shown great effectiveness in broad anecdotal testing, that our death rate from COVID would have been a fraction of the number that have died. Because if you can keep people out of the hospital, the outcome is so much better. If you can keep people from getting so sick that they have to be put in the hospital in intensive care, that is so beneficial to everybody but the hospital. Hospitals suffer horribly if health can be solved before you need to go to the hospital. If problems are cured by nutrition and by inexpensive therapeutics, instead of waiting for things to get so bad that somebody has to go into intensive care and all of those incredibly dangerous and life-threatening procedures like ventilators, etc. So a tragedy has unfolded, and friends, there's a lot to talk about on that issue. But we've rambled a good bit from talking about education to health, but all of it is tied to government inability to do a good job, because their whole focus is not on you, but on preserving their jobs, preserving their job growth and promotion by growing government and by enriching companies that are involved in the regulation, that then researchers and workers can leave government and go to work in big pharma or big tech. And it's a a crazy cycle that we have, friends. But join with us to make a difference and help us grow to be a really influential organization. I'm just hopeful that the Lord is going to bring people into my lives, including maybe you, to make a difference and to help me have real influence on shaping policy with getting real as our mantra. Getting rational, getting sensible, not believing in myths, not believing that government can cure problems and make things better. Frankly, friends, our public schools are a disgrace. They fail so many kids and lead people into unproductive life pathways. We've gone to a situation where we have lots of people going to expensive colleges and going deeply in debt with degrees that won't produce enough economic gain for them to pay back their debt and be a net gain to society. So friends, join with me because we need to change our ways. You've heard me preach repentance. To repent means to say you've done wrong and you want to be forgiven, and you're going to change your ways and change away from the path of evil to the path of good. And that's what we need to do as a people. So we're going to preach a lot about getting real. We're going to preach a lot about accepting the reality that God exists, but He's allowed the devil to exist and be a dominant force in the world. And we need to be all engaged in fighting evil. And evil is rooted in government, because government is rooted in telling people what to do and taking people's money away, using it wastefully and distributing it to a select group, oftentimes keeping them in dependency by not encouraging them to be productive citizens who get ahead at a much higher level. So we have this incredible underclass of people living on very low incomes, very low quality of life, because they haven't been encouraged to be productive and to get a good job and move forward. And we've had this horrible tendency of our society to not allow anybody to make much money. And in fact, many people who run companies try to keep their costs down by not paying their workers and try to put other businesses out of business by undercutting them so that they don't make a profit. Walmart is a classic example of a company that treats its suppliers with incredible profit-crushing activity, doesn't pay its workers well, undercuts smaller retail chains on price, and doesn't make much money, so that the investors in Walmart don't get paid well, the suppliers don't get paid well, the employees don't get paid well. The people are encouraged to buy stuff that's oftentimes not meant to last, and because it's cheap, they think, well, I'll buy it anyway. And we have this incredible churn where cheap Chinese goods come pouring into the country because people feel compelled to buy. And it's a crazy world we live in. You know, when I was young, toys were scarcer, but better made, profitable businesses sold by stores that made money and paid their workers and paid their owner a living wage. And we've gone from that to these profitless mega industries that aren't creating a surplus value anywhere in the chain, but just encouraging senseless consumption to excess. So Join with us, friends. We've covered a lot of issues, but it all springs back to the real core value of loving your neighbor as yourself, which means doing things privately, not doing things by force, not telling your neighbor, you've got to do things my way or I'm going to send you to jail or take your house or make you lose your job because you won't get a vaccine or any of these other things that people are trying to mandate. So friends, we need freedom. We need to be allowed to make choices that may not be the best choice, but we need freedom to choose so that we can all be virtuous and benefit if we make good choices. Maybe we lose out if we don't make a good choice, but that's our God-given right that's enshrined in the founding of America, the idea of individual freedom of God-given rights. So it's not up to the government to be telling you what to do, to be mandating activity that may be harmful and promoting social control. Friends, there's a lot to talk about and a lot to think about, but more government is not the answer. More government mandates isn't the answer. We need to allow people freedom. There are real concerns that people have about issues that make them choose to take a different way, to treat their health choices differently. And friends, I am concerned that we are losing rational thought and becoming irrational, controlling people, dominated not by good sense, but by greed, self-interest, and a desire to control people. We've seen now that these concerns about life issues, especially about COVID, are misplaced and misguided. There is so much out there of misinformation by the government, denial of facts, this blind mantra of saying that people need to wear masks even outdoors, even in venues, with no criteria on what kind of mask it should be. So a cheap little painter's mask that costs a few cents and will only filter out large dust particles is considered to be an acceptable mask, where someone who doesn't wear a mask is, oh, you're violating society. The truth is, friends, if our government really cared about transmission and effective disease control, we would have gone on a crisis program to boost N95 and high filtration mask production dramatically, instead of ineffective masks and cloth masks and all the other silliness that's out there that don't filter any viruses out and don't do much good at all. But to have children having to wear a mask all day long in school when the risk of a child getting COVID is negligible is just a tragedy. And I'm so glad to live in Texas, where we have a sensible governor and sensible policies. But friends, we need your help to promote realism and real solutions to problems, and to get away from this social control mantra that is so false. Now, I just read today that there's a county in Ireland that has nearly 98% vaccination rate, yet it has the highest rate of COVID in Ireland and in the UK, of huge infection rates. So vaccines aren't a silver bullet that wipes out all COVID, and the effectiveness of vaccines, of these so-called vaccines that aren't real vaccines, but our therapeutic interventions is fleeting, and the side effects are severe, not being fully tracked. And friends, we are being sold a bill of goods when inexpensive therapeutics have a proven track record of basically making COVID no more than a bad cold. So, we could do so much better, but that wouldn't be billions for big pharma. That wouldn't be social control and preparing people for an authoritarian government that tells you all sorts of things, losing your doctor privilege, where you have to disclose what you've done medically. This is wrong, friends, and it's all a drift towards Marxism and towards socialism that's going on in this country that is really dark and serious. So join with us, get real involved, sign up for the newsletter so you'll be hearing about what we're doing, making a difference in the world. And please support us with a monthly donation. If you've watched all of this show, or even if you just tuned in at the last minute, read what we have on the website, watch our videos, and make a difference in the world. With your support, we can do so much. Without your support, we're in a dark place, friends. We can't accomplish much. So I'm talking in an empty room to you, and I want your support. And the best way you can say, David, I like what you're saying, I like the idea of getting real, is to give us a monthly donation and support us, join us, get ready to buy the book, encourage us in getting the next book out, and taking on the health issue, taking on the government issue, taking on education. So make a difference in the world. Go to educationalfirststeps.org, support them. You can make a real difference in the world, not with government, but with private effort, and that includes you. So give and donate time and money to making the world a better place. And until next time, I hope you'll share this video with others and think long and hard about what I talk about. And may the peace that passes understanding be in your life, because you've changed your life focus to welcome the Holy Spirit in. So join with me again, and take care, and may God bless you in your life.